Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this beautiful Strawflower Hexagon Scarf. This is a fun pattern where we're going to be making some hexagon motifs and joining them together. We're using a chunkier yarn, so it makes for a very nice scarf, and we're using some pretty colors to really make these little flower motifs in the center really pop out. So let's get started. Each one of these hexagons is about 7.5 inches across from point to point if you're using the same yarn and hook as me, and we'll talk a little bit about the materials in just a moment. So you can really customize the length of your scarf too. If you want your scarf to be longer, simply add more hexagons to the lineup here. But in terms of width, it's going to be about 7.5 inches wide. And my scarf was 8 hexagons long. So it's really customizable in length. If you're making it for a child, you can make yours with less hexagons. For an adult, I got about 8 hexagons, and that was a nice kind of hip up around the neck to the next hip to hip sort of measurement that I got. For this project, you'll need a 6.5 millimeter K crochet hook, a tapestry needle. You'll want a larger one because we're going to be working with bulkier yarn in this project, and a pair of scissors. I used a nice bulky yarn. It's Lion's Pride Wool Spun by Lion Brand Yarn. And I use, the orange is the pumpkin, orchid, aquamarine, charcoal, and avocado, in case you're looking for the same colors. However, you can use any color combination you like. If you need to substitute yarn, just look for a yarn that recommends a K 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. Now I'm going to be, when we do the hexagons for this scarf, I'll be mixing up the rounds on the first couple of rounds, but the last round we do is going to be in one color, the charcoal. So you might need a little bit extra of the yarn that you'll be doing the last round in, because that'll be the most yarn used of that color. However, if you want to mix it up and make it more rainbowy, that would be equally lovely. So just feel free to use any colors, and you can also change if you need to change the hook, or if you have, for example, worsted weight instead. You'll just want to work more rounds of each hexagon to make your scarf larger and come up to size. So let's get started. We're going to begin by making the first hexagon of our scarf. So what we're going to be doing is, we have this neutral color here, and then I have 4 brighter colors. So our hexagons are going to have 4 rounds of colors, and then the last 5th round will be a neutral gray. So we're going to start, some of the hexagons will start off with a green flower, some will start with an orange flower, a purple flower, etc. But each one for the very last round will have this neutral gray, and that will kind of bring the whole scarf together while still being fun and multicolored. So what we're going to do is start off by making the first round, and I'm going to choose this orchid color. So just take a little bit of yarn to begin, and we're going to put a slip knot on our hook. So to make a slip knot, wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your crochet hook and bring up a loop, and then tighten. Next, we're going to make a starting chain of 4. To make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the chain farthest from the hook, that first chain you made, we're going to work a slip stitch. Insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook, and we now have the ring that we'll be working all of our stitches into. I wanted to add as a side note, if you prefer the magic ring method as opposed to this starting chain method that I've just done, definitely feel free to do that if that's what you prefer. I can also provide a link to that tutorial if that's a technique you'd like to learn as well. So we're going to make this interior flower. So what we're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This will begin our first petal. So then work 2 double crochets into the center of the ring. Wrap yarn around hook, insert it into the center of the ring, bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Okay, if you need to slide things over a bit, that's fine too. Work 1 more double crochet into the center of the ring. And then to kind of separate the petals, we're going to work a slip stitch into the center of the ring. Insert the hook, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And that kind of rounds that petal off a little bit. So we have our first petal. We're going to be making 6 petals altogether. This was our first. Now the starting chain here, this chain 3 that we did at the beginning of this first petal, counts as one of the double crochets. So from here on out, we're going to be working 3 double crochets into the center of the ring, and then a slip stitch in between. So work 1, 2, and 3. Okay, if we need to push things over, that's fine. We're going to be working lots of stitches into the center. Then work a slip stitch to separate those petals, and then just keep repeating until you have 6 petals. So 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. Just like that. Let me get some more yarn. This chunkier yarn, you go through it pretty quickly. Okay, then we're going to work a slip stitch into the center. We now have 3 petals. We need 3 more. So 1, 2, and 3. I didn't mention this earlier, but this little tail we have from when we started, I'm holding it along the edge as I work the stitches, and that's going to weave that in as we go along. Okay? So we worked 1, 2, 3 double crochet, work another slip stitch. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4 petals. We need 2 more. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Push it over if you need to. Work a slip stitch to separate. We now have 5 petals. Let's work the last petal. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Then work a slip stitch into the center, just like that, okay? And then we're going to join where we began, this little starting chain. So join at the base of that starting chain with a slip stitch to close the round, okay? Now we're ready to cut the yarn, and we can go ahead and fasten that off. Okay, and pull it snug there. Okay, now you might have a little bit of a gap in the center. That's okay. We're going to be working some stitches into that center, but you'll also want to take this tail that we wove in as we went along and give it a nice tug, and you can go ahead and trim that off right now too to get it out of the way. So just straighten up your flower. You might have to neaten up these petals a little. This tail here we'll deal with later. Okay, so just get all your flower petals nice and neat. And now we're ready to work the next round. I have here a hexagon. It's not quite a hexagon yet, it's still a circle. But I just wanted to show you, see this blue? This is the next round we'll be working. And you kind of work the stitches across the flower. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do like a warm, cool color scheme just so everything really pops. So we're going to try the green. Let's switch to the avocado color. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to tie the new color right on and begin round 2. To work round 2, we're going to look at our petals, and we're going to look at these stitches along the tops of our petals. So select one of your petals from your flower and go ahead and locate one of these back loops at the top of one of your petals and tie the new yarn right into that back loop. You don't want to tie it onto the very top or the front because it'll look a little bit messy and show. So just tie it into one of those back loops at the very top of one of the petals. It doesn't matter which petal, any petal you like, okay? So that way you can see that's kind of hidden now, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook. So each one of our petal had 3 double crochets. So if we look very closely at our flower, we have a post here, a post in the center, and then a post off to the left, okay? So we're going to look at this middle post right now. So insert your hook from the back, go across that post, and then back in, as if you're working a post stitch, if you've ever done that before. Now grab your yarn and bring it through the way you came, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, okay? Next, we're going to make one more chain to create that side. Then work a treble crochet into the center of the ring, and you're going to make sure that's in between these 2 petals. So wrap yarn around hook 2 times, insert it into the center of the ring, bring up a loop. You have lots of loops on your hook at this point. So wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops on your hook, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the next 2 loops on your hook, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops on your hook, just like that, okay? Next, chain 1. Then we're going to go over to this next petal, locate the center post of that petal. Again, we had 3 double crochets per petal, so locate that center double crochet. Then you're going to wrap yarn around hook and insert it. We're going to do a back post double crochet. So come from the back, go across that post, and back over. Now wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the way you came. You now have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Just like that. This, working this back post double crochet here on this petal is going to make our flower look a little bit 3-dimensional, as you can see here. And it'll allow the petals not to get flattened out, okay? So then chain 1, and now we're going to work a treble crochet into in between these next petals. So wrap yarn around hook 2 times, insert the hook into the center of the ring where we began, the center of the flower, wrap yarn around hook, bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the next 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. You can see it almost looks like a little cage or kind of a trellis, you know, around the flower, okay? So chain 1, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work a back post double crochet into the center post of our flower. So locate that post. I like to locate mine first. Wrap yarn around hook, come up from the back, over top of that post, and back down. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the way you came. It helps to work slowly so you're not going to snag any of the yarn or split any of the plies. I'm just going to get a little bit more yarn. So wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Just like that, and chain 1. So we're just doing this all the way around. So the next thing would be a treble crochet into the center of the ring. Just repeat what we've done so far. Just like that. Then chain 1. Then we're ready to work the back post double crochet again. That middle post of our petal. Again, this will make it look nice and 3D. Chain 1. Now we're ready to work in between the petals again. So work a treble crochet in between the petals. Just like that, okay? Get some more yarn here. Okay, then chain 1. We're in the home stretch here. Work a back post double crochet across this petal here. And then chain 1, okay? Work a treble crochet in between the petals. Then chain 1, okay? then work a back post double crochet the next petal, then chain 1, okay? So we're at the last stitch. It's 2 petals, so we're going to be working our treble crochet in between those petals. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and now we are right back where we started. So count 1, 2, 3 chains up, and then join with a slip stitch in that chain to close the round. Okay? So just bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, okay? So round 2 is complete. So then what we want to do is cut the yarn and fasten it off. And it's going to be kind of curly because we work those back post double crochets. It kind of pushes the flower up. So it's going to kind of look like a little bowl at this point. That is perfectly normal. As we work more rounds, these sides are going to flatten out a little bit. But it's going to look like this at this stage of the game. So that's perfectly normal if yours is curling up a little bit. That's exactly what it should be doing at this point, okay? So let's move on to round 3. Okay, I mentioned before we're going to kind of do like a warm, cool sequence. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to switch back to a warm color, this pumpkin. And we're going to, now if we look at how we've constructed this so far, if we look at the side view, see how we have all these holes? We're going to be working into these holes, or spaces as they're referred to in the pattern, okay? So locate any of the spaces. It doesn't have to be a particular space. We're just going to tie the new yarn right on. So just put your hook into one of the spaces, hook the new yarn on, bring it through, and then just tie it right on, okay? Again, we're going to be weaving these ends in as we go along, and that'll save you lots of work at the end because we're going to have lots of motifs and we're going to be joining them together. So whenever possible when you're crocheting, if you have the ability to weave the ends in as you go along, definitely do that. And then I like to weave them in and then kind of like trim them later, okay? So we've tied our new yarn on. So reinsert your hook back into that space, bring up a loop just like that, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now if we come back to the other one I'm working on right now, you can see that the round we're about to do is this orchid color. Okay? So we're going to work in the same space where we just did this chain 3. We're going to work a double crochet into that space. Just like that. Then chain 1. Now hop over to the next space you come to and work 2 double crochets into that space. 1 and 2. Okay, then chain 1, head over to the next space. These spaces were formed in the previous row by working the chain 1s. If you remember working a chain 1 in between each stitch you did, that's how we formed these spaces. Okay, so chain 1 and go over to the next space. So we're going to do this in each space all the way around. 2 double crochets, then a chain 1 in each space. Okay, and our colors, I have to add, our colors are looking very, very pretty. They're nice bright colors, but they're not overly bright. They're still very wearable. Okay, so let's get some more yarn here. So I feel like I've sufficiently weaved in this orange tail, so I'm just going to let that drop for now. But this green one we can still weave a little bit more. So chain 1, we're just working 2 of that orange tail and stuff. Hop back over, just working 2 double crochets in each space all the way around, and then a chain 1 in between each of these groupings here. So 2 double crochet and chain 1, 2 double crochet, and chain 1. Okay, I'm going to continue around and then we'll rejoin towards the end of this round and I'll show you how to join to close the round. Okay, I'm just working that last double crochet group here and then chain 1, and now we're back where we started. So count 1, 2, 3 chains up, insert your hook into that chain, and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay? So round 3 is complete. Now just cut the yarn and fasten it off. Now at this point, it's still going to be a little bit curvy, and it's going to start to flatten out soon. Okay? So next we have our blue. We're going to do our blue next. So we're going to do 4 rounds of colors, and then the 5th round will be this neutral gray. Okay, so let's begin round 4. Okay, so this is the round where, round 4 is the round where our circle is going to become a hexagon with corners and sides. So any of these spaces, tie the new color right onto that. Just tie it right on. So we're going to be creating, again, corners and sides of our hexagon. Okay, so insert your hook, bring up a loop, just like that. Then we're going to chain 3 to start the round. So 1, 2, and 3. Then in this same space, we're going to create the first corner of our hexagon, the little point, okay? So we're going to work 2 double crochet, 1, 2, just like that. This chain 3 we did counts as one of our double crochets, okay? Then we're going to chain 1, then work 3 double crochets, all in this same space here, okay? And you'll see how this is going to look like a corner. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so if we straighten everything out, you can see it has a little point on it, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is chain 1 to separate. Then move on to the next space, and we're going to work a side, okay? The sides are worked with just 3 double crochets and chain 1. So each corner is going to be 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. Then the sides are worked 3 double crochet, chain 1, okay? So we're doing a little bit less there, okay? So 1, 2, and 3 to create that side. Okay, then chain 1. Now we're ready to work another corner. Just going to get some more yarn of this pretty blue color. Okay, so now we're ready to work another corner. So again, for each corner, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then in the same space, 3 more double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, you can see we're getting some sides, a side, and 2 corners now we have established, okay? So chain 1, then we're going to work a side. So we're going to do corner, side, all the way around. So we're ready to do a side. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 1, get some more yarn off of our yarn ball here. Okay, we're ready to work a corner again. We did a chain 1, so 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1 in the same space, 3 more double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, Next corner has been established. Chain 1. Let's work a side now. One, 2, and 3. Okay, so I think we have established our sequence here. So I'm going to keep going with the round and just work corners and sides, corners and sides, corners and sides, all the way around. And then when we get towards the end, I'll show you how to join and close the round. Okay, we're coming up to the end of this round. I just worked the very last side. And then we can join to close with a slip stitch, the same way we've been doing for each of the other rounds. Very good. Okay, then we can cut and go ahead and fasten that off. So let's look at our handiwork here. Get everything, all these, I like to sharpen up my corners when I work squares and hexagons and such. I just sharpen everything up, okay? We have a hexagon now, so we've transformed our circle into a hexagon, and everything looks very, very pretty. All the colors are looking fabulous, okay? So let's work round 5. Now round 5, we're simply going to be repeating the same round that we just worked, this hexagon round. Now if you're working with a yarn that is less bulky, you'll just repeat this round over and over until your hexagon is as big as you want it to be. You're going to make your hexagon. Now, if you like this width for your scarf, you can just stop here. If you want your scarf to be wide, you just work more rounds. If you're working with a thinner yarn, you'll definitely need to work more rounds to get the appropriate width for a scarf, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to continue with our charcoal. Our charcoal is kind of our neutral frame that's going to kind of tie it all together. So we have a very colorful scarf, but we're just going to kind of bring it all together with this pretty charcoal color. If you read the Fiberflex blog regularly, you'll probably know that gray is one of my most favorite colors to work with. I just love gray, and I love it with other colors too. It looks very pretty. Okay, so I do have some ends. I want to address these. I do have some ends that I've been weaving as I go along. I don't weave them into the very, very end. Some people do. It's total personal preference. But if you need to go ahead right now and just trim some of these, or you can wait till the end. I like to just kind of get them out of the way, honestly. Okay, so just trim some of these ends that you have here that we've been weaving along. Okay, so now it's nice and neat and clean on the back. This end we're going to take care of as we do our gray. Okay, so what you're going to do is locate one of the corners. I'm just going to do this top corner here. We're just going to work it the same exact way, but every time we work one of these hexagon rounds, you're going to be adding a side. So this next round will have a corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner. See how this blue round was corner, side, corner, side, corner, side? Each time you build a round, you're going to add a side. Because see, now we have 2 spaces here. Okay? So if we were to do a round after the charcoal, it would be corner, side, 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 corner, and so forth. Okay? So once you get this round in, it's very easy to memorize, and you can just continue and make it as big as you want it to be. Okay? So go ahead and insert your hook, bring the new yarn through, and we're just going to tie it right on. Same way we've been doing. Now, there's lots of ways to join yarn. I like to just cut it and tie it right on. If you have a preferred way that you like to join yarn, definitely feel free to do that as well. Okay? So reach in with your crochet hook back into that corner space and bring up a loop. Then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and in that same space work 2 double crochets, again because this chain 3 that we just did counts as one of our double crochets. So we're only going to need to do 2 for this very first one. Okay, so we're working a corner. See how we're working into a corner? So you're going to work corners into the corners. Okay, so chain 1, and then in that same corner space work 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. See that? We have a corner and then a corner. It's kind of stacked, okay? So to proceed, just chain 1. Now, again, like I mentioned, we're going to have 2 sides. So corner, side, side in this round. Okay, again, I'm holding this little tail as I go along to weave that in. So again, the sides were 3 double crochets, then chain 1. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1. Hop over to that next side space. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Holding those tails as I work. And I've actually arrived at this blue tail, so we're going to also begin to incorporate that tail. We can drop this gray one because it's getting pretty short. Okay, now we've come to another corner, so just chain 1 to separate them and work into the corner. 3 double crochet, 1, holding that tail, 2. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more yarn here. I'm just breezing through the yarn because it's chunky and warm, so we'll go through your yarn pretty quickly. Okay, so let's finish up this corner. Okay, so 1, 2, and there's a little snag in my yarn, but that's okay, it'll disappear. We'll just stitch it right out of the way there. See, I just pushed it to the back. Okay, so 3 double crochet, chain 1, and then 3 double crochet all in that space to work this corner here. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm going to keep going around, but we're going to do the same thing. See how we have our corner, side, side, corner? We'll do the same thing. Corner, side, side, corner. Okay, side, side, corner, side, side, and then a corner. So I'm going to keep going around. And again, once we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin again, okay? We're coming up to the end of our charcoal round here. Just working that last double crochet. And then we're going to just do the same thing and just join to close the round with a slip stitch. Okay, and we can fasten off. And then our hexagon is finished. Okay, so we're just going to, just want to sharpen up those corners here. So let's look at our work. We've done 5 rounds, and when we join these hexagons, we're going to be joining them onto the flat sides. We're going to be seaming them to another hexagon. So from this point to this point is really going to be the width of your scarf. So take that into consideration if you, at this point, if you want to work more rounds or not. So we had 5 rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more hexagons. So this working more rounds will establish your width, and then adding more hexagons to your scarf will establish the length. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more hexagons, and the next thing we're going to do is learn how to seam the hexagons together and to finish off our scarf. Okay, so now we're ready to seam our hexagons together. Now we're going to seam them by lining up 2 of the flat sides. We don't want to go point to point. We're going to do against the flat sides. And I'm going to slip stitch seam these together. I don't want a very pronounced seam, so I'm going to do the slip stitch seam instead of a single crochet seam. You could also whip stitch these by just taking a length of yarn and your tapestry needle and just sewing them together. We're going to do a slip stitch seam. So what we want to do is we have 2 of our hexagons, and we have the side facing out, the right side of our hexagons facing upward. This is also called the public side, the right side. If you flip it over, you can see that the back side looks a little bit different. This is the side that was facing you as you were making your hexagon. So anyway, we're going to have both sides right sides facing upward, and then we're going to sandwich them together. So go ahead and flip them inward. So both of the right sides are now facing inward. Then we're going to come back to our edge that we're going to seam, okay? So once you get everything lined up, we're now going to go into this left corner here and insert the hook into that stitch all the way at the left. Okay, you can kind of look for that corner space and insert it like that, okay? So we have our hook into both layers. Now each layer has 2 loops because we've inserted it into the stitch. So what we're going to do is add the yarn and bring it through and then just tie it right on. So once the yarn is tied on, now we're ready to seam. So what you're going to do is at the very left, locate this corner space on this side and the corner space on this side, so you can see that on both sides, and then insert your hook, bring up a loop, and then chain 1, and then turn your work. So now we're ready to work across. Okay, so what we're going to do is locate that first stitch that we come to, insert the hook into the first layer, insert the hook into the second layer. We're incorporating, let me get this yarn out of the way, we're incorporating the tail, so you can kind of lay that across the top as you work. Now wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through all the layers. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, so just bring that loop through the loop that was already on your hook. Just like that, okay? So we're just going to do this all the way across, working a slip stitch seam, incorporating our tail as we go. Okay, so we're just going through all the layers of our work. Now, I wanted to mention when you get to one of these spaces, just work it right into the space on both sides. Okay, and then we're at a stitch again. So I'm just going to work this across, and then I'm going to show you how to finish it off when we get to the end. Okay, so I'm just working the last slip stitch into these corner spaces, the same as when we began. Okay, so that's that, and then you can just cut the yarn and fasten off. Okay, now if you have any ends, I was weaving mine along and then it popped out, so I'm just going to go ahead and weave that in now. I think mine was a bit short, so I think that's why it didn't want to stay put. So I'm just going to go ahead and weave the ends in. Just come in one direction like we did before. Come in the other direction. Just like that, okay? And then you can just take your scissors and trim, and we'll repeat for this tail as well. So we're also going to check our seam and make sure it's nice and neat. Okay, so I'm just going in one direction, come back in the other direction, and then take our scissors and trim. Okay, now we can open up our hexagon and just make sure everything looks nice and neat. And as you can see, these clusters that we created in the hexagon, they're all nice and lined up because we kept everything lined up as we worked. So to finish your hexagon seaming, you're just going to grab another hexagon, make sure both of the right sides are facing upward, and then flip it inward, and then go ahead and seam. Then when you get that one seamed, you'll just keep connecting your hexagons until all of your hexagons are seamed together. So once all of your hexagons are joined together, your scarf will be complete. Just be sure you weave in all the ends that remain. So that is how you crochet the Strawflower Hexagon Scarf. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflux video updates. Thanks again!